All right, how's everyone doing? Hopefully, everyone is having a great week and practicing some more. So, as usual, sometimes a lot of the topics that I want to talk about is born out of not just the guitar, although it always comes back to music in a way. This one comes out of cello. I started studying with a new cello teacher, and and I was just thinking about the way guitar per se or music in general is taught, but really specifically guitar. I am an autodidact for the most part when it comes to guitar, being that I am mostly self-taught. I've had a couple lessons here and there, and I wanted to, I guess, talk about sometimes the benefits and I guess the disadvantages of trying to teach yourself, specifically music, guitar, any other instruments for that matter. So it all started because cello is very, very difficult. And I remember I Googled when I first started trying to learn the cello, self-taught cellists and things of that nature. In guitar, there's so many stories about great guitarists supposedly teaching themselves and learning to play really late. So there's a lot that can't read music and things of that nature. So, that's very, very different than a classical instrument, piano, violin, cello, and things of that nature. So my teacher got me to buy this book called Two Octave Scales and Bowings. I've got this. I've got Alan Schroeder's 170 Foundation Studies for Violin, Cello. And the point of this is that there is a certain pedagogy in terms of classical music, the way it's taught. Very, very, very organized. I have a very organized teacher, great, great, great teacher, a great player, but a great educator. And, I started thinking about, hey, what are some of the advantages and what are the things that are, I'm not going to have now that I'm more or less studying with somebody, and what are the disadvantages of trying to study on your own. So before I do that, I kind of wanted to talk about music education in general. And for me, I think that it's basically the same way whether you teach yourself or whether or not you go to a conservatory and learn, as far as the whole process of learning in terms of a musical instrument. I think the first level of it is imitation. Um, Imitation for me came by trying to figure things out by ear. What I heard of the Wes Montgomery solos, or at least at the beginning, it was everything from Rick Springfield to Van Halen to Jimi Hendrix and classic rock of that nature. So, first level is us trying to imitate the sound that we hear. And that usually means, quote unquote, trying to transcribe, or even if you learn to read, you're learning to read other people's things. You're imitating what they did. So that to me is the first level of learning an instrument, imitation. After that, once you've gotten that down, whether you do that through your own devices or through the teacher, then it's exploration. Once you've imitated enough and you've learned enough stuff, you kind of start exploring a little bit and start doing your own thing. By that, sometimes you can call it noodling on the guitar end, but you begin to venture out into just imitation. You're trying to figure out who you are as a musician. So you've got that layer of that. So you've got imitation and exploration. And then after that, if you really get to a certain level, to me, it's composition. And that's a craft that probably can be best taught in the conservatory. But there are a lot of singer songwriters who are not trained from that perspective, but they're writing great songs. So that is the truest form of self-expression is composition. Okay, so you've got imitation, exploration, composition, and then the fourth layer, to me, to a certain extent, is the jazz layer that I call it. It could be the classical layer because Baroque musicians did that. That is improvisation, where you may take something and it kind of has a bit of composition in it, but you're still making it your own. So, in some form or fashion, that's what musical education or learning process entails. You can order those four concepts however you want, but it's really imitation, exploration, composition, and improvisation. So, having said that, I kind of then wanted to talk a little bit about what I viewed as the benefits of being self-taught. And one of the reasons I was self-taught was that one of the it's very expensive to get a music teacher, and it's also very hard to get competent music teachers. My best friend is a teacher, and he's actually very, very, very good. But my experiences and the reason I started became more self-taught. Earlier on, I just didn't have the money, so I couldn't take lessons. I didn't grow up in an age of YouTube, so I could buy records and cassettes and figure that stuff out like that. So there was a lot of that imitation stuff happening along. It was just too expensive to do that. But when I, started working and could afford a teacher, my experiences with teachers were not really that good. I had people who were like kind of all over the map. They were not very structured. They did not have a set methodology. Quite frankly, it bored me. So I always went back on my own, and it seemed to be working from that perspective. But in terms of the advantages I felt, is the controls. That's the first thing. So when you teach yourself and you become sort of like an autodidact, first of all, there's plenty of resources. There are people who argue that nobody really teaches themselves, learn on their own. They're buying books, they're doing all that stuff. But I'm putting that in as you're teaching yourself. Even if you're buying a book, you're reading it, you're looking at it, and you're trying to make sense of what you've purchased from that perspective. But you decide with the control that you have where you want to study, how often you want to study, when you want to learn, even what you use to learn, whether it be, the computer, books, tapes, things of that nature. So very much control is in your hands. Whereas sometimes when you are learning from a teacher, that control is not you have a limited, or it's not unlimited. Let's just put it that way. The second thing is self-paced. And please keep in mind, some of these things that I'm saying are advantages of being self-taught are the same, could be viewed as disadvantages or things that can coexist with having a teacher. But self-paced study is something that you can do a little bit easier, I think, when you're self-taught. You can study when you want, where you want, and things of that nature. The other one is it nurtures, I think, a little bit more curiosity. Okay, so you've got control, self-paced, and nurtures more curiosity. Clearly, learning to play an instrument is nurturing curiosity. So that period is that. But learning it on your own nurtures, to me, a little bit more curiosity. You gotta be curious. You gotta want to learn. You gotta want to learn explanation. Want to watch videos. Want to read books. Want to see live performances. So it definitely nurtures curiosity. The last one, which is perhaps the best benefit to me of being self-taught, is it fosters self-discipline. I think a little bit more than just having a teacher. You have to be self-disciplined. You have to be focused. You have to want to get up and open that book and practice. No one's telling you to practice. You're not paying anybody. So if you don't have that self-discipline, you're not going to do that. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many teachers tell me there are so many students who are paying good money, but they're not practicing. Well, you're going to practice when you are teaching yourself. So you have to be self-disciplined. So again, the benefits to me are the control, the self-paced nature of it. It nurtures a little bit more curiosity, and the self-discipline. Again, I reiterate this. This is not mutually exclusive if you have a teacher, but I think it leads a little bit more. Now, with every pro, there is a con. Okay? Let's talk about the disadvantages. And there are some huge ones in there. It's because it's not for everybody. The first one is not knowing what to learn. Okay? You don't know what you don't know. Let's just put it that way. So you don't know what to learn. Okay? Should I be learning chords? Should I be learning, songs? Should I be learning arpeggio? Should I be learning theory? There's a vast amount of things for you to learn. And unless you're very self-disciplined, unless you're pretty bright, or you have some really good independence skills, not knowing what to learn is a big drawback, and it kind of holds a lot of people back. The second one is lack of time. One of the reasons you hire somebody to do something is so you don't waste your time and it doesn't become confusing from that perspective. So lack of time crunch, right? So if I have a 45-minute lesson, I'm expecting the teacher to be very focused. work on certain things, and for me to practice on that stuff. So my time could be more focused. For example, in my cello, they told me, or she told me, practice 20 minutes a day. So I'm not all over the map. I do practice a little bit more than 20 minutes, but I'm not doing 3 hours in woodshedding all over the place. So my time is very focused on the instrument, and I've seen a lot of gains from that. Sometimes more is not more. Let's put it that way. The third disadvantage, so you have not knowing what to learn. Second is lack of time. The third one is very big, is self-motivation and interest. If you cannot motivate yourself to pick up the instrument, to open the book, if you can't self-motivate yourself, you can't self-teach yourself, period. It goes without saying. And a lot of people, they need that extra push from a teacher to help them focus. And then the fourth one is kind of like a little bit of the first one, which is too much choice would be the fourth one. Again, the first one was not knowing what to learn. There's so much stuff there that's tied in with too much choice. There's too much choice. There's too many genres. There's too many things to learn for some people. It becomes analysis paralysis. You don't know what to focus on. There's just too many things. So you've got not knowing what to learn, lack of time, self-motivation and interest, and the fourth one is too much choice. The fifth one is sort of a little bit of a variation of some of the things I've said, but I would include this in there, is learning only what you are interested in. This is a hard one because you sometimes get better by lifting what you don't want to lift, okay? So it's great to study things that you're interested in, but a good teacher should probably have you work on things that you're not interested in because you don't know that it could help you. So for example, you may be a player that wants to play only with a pick. And so you don't want to do any finger style stuff. So you're not interested in it. So you totally ignore that throughout your whole existence of learning the guitar. And at some point, it's a good skill to have. Vice versa. If you only learn how to play with your fingers, you totally ignore playing with a pick because you're not interested in it, then, it might come back to bite you. So there are clearly some disadvantages to learning on your own. So at the end of the day, what should be your approach? It's an individual choice. It's one we have to grapple with. I believe it's probably a combination of both. Okay, it's impossible for you to learn an instrument without at some level you teaching yourself. And I always maintain that this is your best teacher regardless of that. But it's a combination of both. At some point, I think everybody should probably study with someone. It'll help you improve it. But you have to venture out and learn, get your own voice. And I believe that it's easier to get your own voice when you're left to your own wills and volition and you're on your own and you have to think about that. So either way, whether you teach yourself or whether you study with a teacher, you still have to do what? Practice, practice, and practice some more, because it'll help you get not a little, but a lot better. All right, then. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of the week, and practice some more.